What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wrestle Show. And yeah, as you guys see from previous episode, this is part 2 of rebooking every WrestleMania. So I think let's get into it. Let's talk about WrestleMania 2. It was held actually in 3 different cities, 3 different venues. One was in Illinois, Rosemount. One was in California, and one was in New York. So I think that was a pretty cool concept, especially back in the day, to try to continue to, expand the global audience. You get the 3 biggest markets and you kind of have like 3, mini shows, but when you put it together, it looks pretty cool. So I thought it was a cool idea. Can they do it now? Probably not, because I think they rather fill a whole arena rather than fill 3. And then yeah, I think it's more special when it's just one arena where all the events happen, I think. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And yeah, I thought WrestleMania 2, they tried some things. They brought more celebrities in, like Joe Frazier, I believe Daryl Dawkins. They had, NFL players in Battle Royal, which was cool. So yeah, they did some things to try to market to like the the casual fans. I thought it was cool, but people say WrestleMania 2 is probably one of the worst WrestleManias. And I have to agree, there wasn't really a lot of good work rate matches, and there wasn't really good payoffs to matches, so I'm gonna try and rebook the card. And yeah, so let me run down the original card. 1 second, let me get my laptop, and yeah, because I did not remember much from this card. All right, so the first part of the show was held in New York, and the opener was the magnificent Don Morocco fighting Paul Orndorf, and it ended in a double countout. Again, this is one of my problems. I personally feel Paul Orndorf, he should have had a bigger match on the show, so that's something to keep in mind in my rebooking. Then we got Randy Savage versus George the Animal Steele. Again, I thought Randy Savage, he deserved, a better opponent in my opinion. I didn't really see George Steele as a credible challenger, even though I understand the story with him, trying to get to Miss Elizabeth and all that. So I do understand the story, but in my rebooking, I have like a better matchup and it'll be much better work rate in my opinion. And then we got Jake Roberts versus George Wells. Jake Roberts obviously wins. And then we got the main event of part 1 in New York. We got Mr.T defeating Roddy Piper by disqualification in a boxing match. Yeah, I have a problem with this. I would not have a boxing match. I just don't think, you're trying to promote WrestleMania. This is not Boxing Mania. So, yeah, that's kind of how the first part went. Then we got part 2. We got the women's championship match, the Fabulous Moolah defeating Velvet McIntyre. Then we got Corporal Kirchner defeating Nikolai Volkov. And then we got the WWF versus NFL Battle Royal. Andre the Giant won, last eliminating Bret Hart. And, some of the participants, mainly Tony Atlas was in it, Pedro Morales, Big John Studd. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through some of the names. Who else was in here? Iron Sheik was in it. Bruno Martino was in it. Keep that in mind. I have something much better for Bruno. And yeah, we got the Refrigerator Perry. He was in it. He's a Hall of Famer. And yeah, so that was the Battle Royal. And then we got the main event for the part 2 in Chicago. Or was it? I don't know if it's Chicago or Rosemount. It's in Illinois. That's a state. So yeah, I'm from Canada, so I don't really know my geography out there. But yeah, the main event, the British Bulldogs defeat the Dream Team for the WWF Tag Team Championship. That was the best match on the card. You even had celebrity appearances, which was cool. Who's the guy? Willie Osborne, I believe. I think that was him. So yeah, he was there, which was cool. Yeah. Part 2 is probably the better show just because they had the best match. And then we got part 3. We got Ricky Steamboat versus Hercules Hernandez. Again, I got a better opponent for Ricky. Thinking about good work rate at WrestleMania. We're trying to promote wrestling. So, Adonis versus Adrian Adonis, my bad, versus Uncle Elmer. And then we got Haas Funk and Terry Funk, which was cool to have the Funks on there, against JYD and Tito Santana. And then we got the main event of the WrestleMania, the main event of part 3. We got the WWF Championship, Hulk Hogan defeating King Kong Bundy in a steel cage match. This was a good match. It was kind of the precursor to the much bigger match the next year. But I just have something in mind for Hogan, Think of it as a passing of the torch. And who knows, is Hogan giving the torch or is Hogan receiving the torch? Well, you'll find out. So yeah, let's get into my card, WrestleMania 2, right now. Alright guys, let's get into the show. Welcome to WrestleMania 2! Now yeah, you got the same thing, Ray Charles saying America the Beautiful to start. Nice way to start off. And then we got, in the New York area, we got the first match. Jake Roberts versus Adrian Adonis. This is when Jake Roberts, he first came up. I think this would just be a better match than him fighting... Who did he fight? George Wells? Yeah, I just think this would be a better match. And I think Adrian Adonis fought Uncle Elmer, so that was not a good match either. So, you take the two better workers and you put them together. I think their styles is really... It really plays off. Especially in how they'll feud, Jake Roberts. He's very serious. He's very cold, cold-blooded. And then we got Adrian Adonis. He's very flashy, flamboyant. So, yeah, you can have Jake use a snake to, scare Adrian and all that. So, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun feud, fun opener. Of course, Jake Roberts gets to win. And then the second match, we got Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Yes, this would be, man, the work rate would be unbelievable here. We got a young Bret Hart. We got Ricky Steamboat, who's also still in his prime. I think it'll be a fun match. And yeah, it should be better than what they're both doing, I think Steamboat fought Hercules and Bret Hart was in the Battle Royal for no reason. I know Bret wasn't like a big name yet, but I think... I think Bret can say, like, he's the best technician and all that. He's the best in the ring. And Steamboat can just challenge him. It'll be a pretty simple match. I'm sure it'll be a great work rate match. And definitely an upgrade from what these two were actually did in real life. So, yeah. And speaking of upgrade, I got the Intercontinental Championship match. I got Randy Savage versus Tito Santana. Yes. I took George Steele out just because, I didn't feel his work rate style wasn't as good. I know they had the story, but, you could easily make a story with Savage and Tito. Tito's very sympathetic. Savage is very cocky and arrogant. And, yeah, I think it would be a fun work rate match. And, of course, you got to have Savage win just to, to keep him going till next year. And you know what happens next year, WrestleMania 3. And in the main event in New York, we got Roddy Piper versus Mr.T. Keep it the same. I'd have them in a wrestling match, though. We don't need no boxing. Could be a wrestling match. Could end the same with Roddy getting DQ, because obviously Roddy doesn't want to lose cleanly to Mr.T. But obviously Mr.T is a celebrity, so you gotta have him win. So yeah. So that'll be part 1. Let me know what you guys think. And then we got part 2. In Chicago, in Rosemount, we got the Women's Championship match. Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre. Again, I have nothing really else to say about this. Just maybe make the match a little longer. This match was really short in real life, so maybe give them some time. And yeah, I really did not know much about the women's division, especially back then here. So yeah, I just keep it the same. Maybe give them more time so it's not a waste of time. And then we got Paul Orndorf, who's a face. He turned on Roddy Piper and Bob Orton, and his opponent, Cowboy Bob Orton. I think it would be a better payoff than Orndorf versus Don Morocco. And yeah, I think WrestleMania, you got to pay off the feuds. So I think, again, Paul Orndorf, he used to be friends with Bob Orton and Roddy Piper. They turn on him. Roddy's got to deal with Mr.T. So Paul Orndorf, he goes after Bob Orton. So yeah, be a good match. I give Paul Orndorf the win. He is the bigger star. And then we got the WWF versus NFL Battle Royal. Again, I switch out some participants. I'm not going to go through all of the participants. But yeah, they had Andre originally win. I have a different plan for Andre, so I'd have like Big John Studd win. It'll still be good. You got the NFL guys, you got the wrestlers in there. So yeah, it'll still be a draw because of the NFL guys. I know I took some stars out like Andre. I also took Bruno Martino out of the match. So yeah, but hey, you got to do what you got to do to make a better card, right? And then the main event in Chicago, we got the World Tag Team Championship match, the Dream Team versus the British Bulldogs with the Celebrity, Ozzy Osbourne. I think it'll be a fun match. Same ending, same match basically, same feud. And yeah, the British Bulldogs forever. And then we got the last arena. We got LA, Los Angeles. First match, Corporal Kirchner versus Don Morocco. I just took off Nikolai Volkov. I put him in the Battle Royal. Yeah, I just had nothing for Don Morocco, and I felt like, he deserves to be on the card. He's a pretty good heel. And I think the crux of this feud would be like, Don Morocco saying he's a true American, look at his body and all that. And Corporal Kirchner saying it's not about the body, it's about having the heart. So that'll be a good match. Don Morocco goes over, and that's that. And then we got Junkyard Dogg and George Steele versus the Funks. Again, I just took out Tito Santana, replaced him with George Steele. I felt like the chemistry with Junkyard Dogg and George Steele would be better because they're more like over-the-top characters. Tito's not really, he's not an over-the-top character. We got JYD and George Steele. They're very over-the-top. They show a lot of like emotions. They like to interact with the fans. So yeah, I think it would be a better duo to face the Funks, who are obviously more serious. And I think this feud could be like these guys just calling the JYD and George Steele a joke. Like, look at their antics in the ring. We're the Funks, we do that old school wrestling and all that. So that'll be pretty much the crutch of the feud. And yeah. And then we got Andre the Giant versus King Kong Bundy. So I took King Kong Bundy out of the main event. And obviously, like I said before, Andre's out of the Battle Royal. But I feel like this is a better match, It's kind of leveling up Andre for what happens next year, First, he beat Big John Studd in my rebooking last year, just like what happened in real life. And then now he beats King Kong Bundy. So he's beating the Giants. He's establishing he is the most dominant Giant in wrestling. So, yeah, basic feud, Giant versus Giant. Who's more dominant? Of course, you have Bobby Heenan in there, managing King Kong Bundy, and at the end, Andre wins. He probably, he can go after Bobby at the end too for a feel-good moment. Then we got the main event of the evening, the WWF Championship, the immortal Hulk Hogan brother versus Bruno Sammartino. Yes, I said it. Yeah, man. I just think, hey, man, let's give Bruno one more big match. He doesn't really appear on any pay-per-view after this. So, yeah, let's give Bruno one big match. And I think, at the time, face versus face wasn't really in. But, I'm using hindsight in how great face versus face matches are. Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, great face versus face match. Austin versus The Rock. Although Austin turned heel after, it was a great face versus face match. Even like The Rock and Cena, you know, face versus face, you get the most emotion, I believe, out of a crowd. And I think this would be a great match to have. Yeah, man, if you want to establish Hulk Hogan as the man, he was already the man, by the way, but like to even further establish him as the man, have him go against the previous man, the longest holder of the WWF Championship, the man who sold out arenas, you know, everywhere he went, Bruno Martino. It'll be a fun match, you know, no heel turn, nothing like that, just respect versus respect. And yeah, Hulk Hogan, he wins the match. He shakes Bruno's hand after. Bruno endorses him. And that's how we end WrestleMania 2. So, yeah, guys, that is my card. Let me know what you guys think. And, yeah, I'm going to go over the card one more time. Here we go. WrestleMania 2 in New York. We started off Jake the Snake Roberts versus Adrian Adonis. Then we got Ricky Steamboat versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Then we got the Intercontinental Championship match. The Macho Man Randy Savage versus Tito Santana. Then we got Roddy Piper versus Mr.T. I pity the fool. And then in Chicago, we got the Women's Championship match. Fabulous Mula versus Velvet McIntyre. Then we got Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorf versus Cowboy Bob Orton. Then we got the WWF versus NFL Battle Royal. And then we got the World Tag Team Championship match. The Dream Team versus the British Bulldogs. And then we got part 3 in LA. We got Corporal Kirchner versus Don Morocco. And then we got Junkyard Dogg and George the Animal Steele against Terry and Haas Funk, the Funk Brothers. And then we got the Battle of the Giants, Andre the Giant versus King Kong Bundy. And in the main event, the Battle of the Eras, we got the Immortal Hulk Hogan versus Bruno Sammartino. So, yeah, appreciate it. This is part 2. I can't wait for part 3. I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.